Hey, kids, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is time once again for Conscious Embodiment, Astrology, and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. I am your host, Dr. Michael Lennox, here as I am every week with producer Zoe.
Hey, listeners.
Hey. Hope you're doing well today, Zoe. We're going to talk about September 5th through the 11th, hitting you on a holiday weekend here in the States. And we're going to start our conversation today about Mars and Mars's retrograde because over the weekend, Mars hit 8 degrees of Gemini. This begins his retrograde cycle. Mars, who spends like 6 weeks in a sign, is going to be in Gemini till March, or through, I should say, through March of 2023. 7 months in the same sign because he's going to go retrograde. Mars is the planet of action, the physical body, decision-making, goals and ambitions, and how we sort of govern the resource of our, human body hours, like what we focus our physical energy on. When any personal planet goes retrograde, my language for that is it's as if that planet's consciousness is visiting the unconscious, the territory below, where when a personal planet visits that below territory, we are in a position to transform and change things with regard to what that planet's consciousness is. This is very easy to understand with Mercury retrogrades for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a simple process. If I'd say to you, communication challenges will instruct you around what issues are troubling to your communication so that you can have better connection to your thoughts and expression because Mercury's going retrograde. Everybody gets that because everybody has a similar kind of notion about what communication is and how we do it. Similarly, Venus retrogrades, my language about Venus retrogrades is it's about becoming a better giver and receiver of love, whatever that means for you as an individual. And that's universal. Everybody understands that. But Mars is wildly individual compared to the universality of thinking and feeling because everybody approaches decision-making differently, goals and ambitions differently. We all relate to our body in a very individualized way that isn't standard. And so I think Mars retrogrades are a little harder to convey what they are, what their value is, and how to move through them. But the loosest sort of simple language, I always like to boil things down to fundamentals, to principles. The more simple the language, the more powerfully universal it'll be. As Mars moves through the same sign through retrograde over the next bunch of months, we are all going to be going through individualized processes that will allow each of us at the individual level to get our walk and our talk in greater alignment. That can apply to your relationship with your body, to your relationship with your goals and ambitions. Your relationship with anger might be something that will rework itself during a Mars retrograde because that's the planet through which we understand anger. There's a lot going to happen over the next couple of months with this Mars retrograde that's right in alignment with the idea of healing, dropping into the unconscious to find emotional sort of patterns that hold you back and let some of them go. Mars is going to work with Chiron in a sextile during this retrograde. That's where some of the healing comes from. Mars will hit the south node of the moon, which is the past in the great eliminator angle. And there's lots more to say about this with Mars, but I'm not going to go into it all now because we'd be here for freaking ever. 2 things I'll say about the Mars retrograde cycle. Well, 3. The first thing I'll say is now comes the time to start paying attention to matters of the physical body, matters of goals and ambitions, matters of decision-making, matters of how you deal with anger, because Mars has started triggering the territory he's going to be covering during the retrograde that starts really not until like November, late October. So from now to the end of October, we're in the pre-shadow process where we're not in the backward motion yet that starts October 30th. But we're in the 2 months of gathering information that's going to instruct us to, understand what might be demanded of us when Mars does go turn around. So that's the first thing I want to convey, is that now starts the period of time of just being curious. Watch your choices, watch your actions, take a look at the goals you're setting for yourself from a little bit of an objective perspective, because understand that these next bunch of months is going to change a lot of those things for us. And we want to start paying attention to that now. The second thing I want to say is that this is a long process. I'll be talking about this every week in this podcast based on if there's something to talk about the cycle as we go. And the third thing I want to say is this feels like a really important process for me as an astrologer who's a teacher in the world. So much so that I'm doing a masterclass on this retrograde process. Because embodiment and getting our, sort of how we walk our talk, in alignment is a lot of like what I'm a stand for as a teacher. And so this felt like a cycle that my followers would benefit from, like a class to talk about how to best navigate this cycle. So that the class is taking place live on Saturday, September 10th. It'll be available for recording forever. So you don't have to be there live to take advantage of the class. But if you go to michaellenix.com, you can find more information and register. There are lots of moments in astrology that are big and significant where I would never do a class about it. I would just talk about it in my global healing meditation in my podcast. But this one feels different. Mars is our walk. Gemini, the sign he's in, is a Mercury sign. That's about the talk. And really and truly, all of us have the opportunity of getting our walk and our talk into better alignment between now and the spring. Show up to this class and let me help you through that process. Look forward to seeing some of you there. Big shift in sensation this week with Venus moving into Virgo today, in fact. Venus has been in Leo for the last 3.5 weeks. Venus moving through Leo was interesting because on the one hand, it's a very exuberant placement for the planet of love, right? It's fiery, it's gregarious and affectionate and wonderful. But Leo is a fixed sign and Venus was part of the fixed Grand Cross. And so while the Venus in Leo energy might have been sort of expressive and big and yummy and gregarious, we were not without our challenges with Venus moving through fixed Leo, just because of the setup in the sky, and the last lunar cycle was pretty brutal because of that fixed energy. And so with Venus moving out of fixed Leo and into mutable Virgo, that's good for allowing our feeling body to just have some movement and flow once again. So now we've got Sun in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo, and Venus in Virgo. That means that our sense of conscious awareness, our mental body, and now our emotional body are all in the grounded, earthy, healing sign where we put things together in their proper place, that we understand structure and organization, and that we interpret the information and the wisdom that comes from our feelings with great precision. One of the shadow artifacts of Venus in Virgo can be sort of an overly perfectionistic and detailed approach to love, such that we can shut love off a little bit from criticism or righteousness or felt lack of healing.
Like we reject love because of our criticisms?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if there's a shadow artifact to Virgo consciousness, it's too much detail, too much perfection, too much criticism and perfectionism. Right. So that shadow would show up in love consciousness during the next 3.5 weeks where, yes, you can shut love down by being too exact in your expectations and too specific about how you need the love to show up. And love is, not always going to show up in the ways that we want. And it's the loving thing to do to learn how to find the love where it looks like it isn't. That might be a little harder to do with Venus in Virgo, but the value of Venus in Virgo is understanding process and integration, bringing a healing perspective into how you approach intimacy and love and finances. I always forget to mention that Venus rules finances. But what I love about Venus moving into Virgo in a moment when there's a lot of healing available. And I'm going to talk about Chiron and the South Node in a minute, because this whole month has something built into it that allows us to drop some old patterns at a deep level because of something Chiron is doing. Virgo is the sign ruled by Chiron. So Venus moving into Chiron-ruled Virgo means that our hearts are ready to do some deep work in opening up and healing through that Virgo consciousness of process, integration, and understanding all of the complex parts that make your heart up. So for the next 3.5 weeks, love gets a little bit of a clean up. And I would say that love language is more likely to be in the realm of acts of service. So let me then talk about the Chiron inconjunct to the South Node, because it's going to hit a couple of times this month because of weird retrograde movement and the way the nodes of the moon wobble back and forth. This isn't just a hit, one and done. It's going to hit a couple of times this month that the Chiron, the great healer, is going to stare back across at the South Node of the moon in the great eliminator angle. The South Node is the past, and so it's the part of our consciousness that's capable of holding all of our baggage and wounds. I like to think that the South Node is like that bag that you put all your shit into, or the shelf in your closet you put things on you don't want to like deal with right now. I'll deal with that later. I'll handle that tomorrow. That's the South Node keeps all of those things until we are either ready to or forced to look at our past and unpack things and let them go. One of the big collective nodal transits this year is Chiron, the great healer, in the inconjunct or great eliminator angle with the South Node in Scorpio, the sign of death and rebirth.
Oh.
So Venus alone in 2022 has been very engaged in deep healing processes. I've been talking about this all year because of the gathering that Venus did with Pluto in the beginning of the year, spending almost 3 weeks with the Lord of the Underworld, imbued Venus with deep transformative consciousness, helping us to go all the way down to death, to be reborn with regard to our love, intimacy, and financial experiences this year. So as Venus has been moving through the rest of the ecliptic around the zodiac this year and next year, she will be bringing the transformative power of her congress with Pluto from early 2022 with her as she goes. So I've been trying to pepper that into all of my language this year when I talk about Venus and I talk about healing in general, that as chaotic and difficult as this year has been, the opportunity that we've all had at an individual level and on some levels a collective level as well is to take all of this personal healing that we've been experiencing it and trust that the collective is healing a bit by Chiron hitting the South Node in the great eliminator angle. So in a moment on the planet when polarization is getting worse than ever and hatred and enmity is piling up, this deepens my commitment to making sure that everybody in my world understands this principle that we must heal our own wounds and let them go so that we can move about the world in a higher vibration, helping to attract in a landscape in the outer world that has healing reflected into it. So I'm calling this transit both personal and collective. It's collective because the nodes are always a collective. So if Chiron is hitting the South Node, that means that the whole collective is experiencing an opportunity to drop some wounds in order to move forward more powerfully.
Right.
But it's also an individual and a personal experience because of this principle that the collective only advances through the experience of millions and billions of human beings who make up that collective having a similar experience at the same time. So in your healing journeys for this week and this entire month at the individual level, please remember you're directly impacting the healthiness and the well-being of the whole by attacking your own personal wounds and demons and helping to let them go as you move through this week and this entire month. And what could be more healing and release oriented of things that inhibit your well-being than a full moon in Pisces? That full moon is hitting on Saturday, sort of early in the wee hours, Saturday early morning around like 2:30 a.m. Pacific time. But first of all, I love the Virgo mansion for the healing process that's built in to our conscious awareness, the sun moving through the territory that invented the body and understands the power of a daily practice. Virgo energy rules the body, so health and our physical experience of how we treat the body and the well-being that we can generate when we treat it well, that's a Virgo consciousness. But Virgo is also the mansion where we become devotional on a daily basis. Virgo is in charge of the to-do list, the daily routine. This makes sense when you think about Virgo's rulership over the body. Virgo rules the body because it's made up of these myriad of systems with lots and lots of little tiny moving parts that come together and make a body function. That's kind of like your Thursday functions well because you do all the things that are on your to-do list on a Thursday, right? So
Lots of scheduling.
Right. So now take that idea of lots of scheduling and turn it into a kind of a healing consciousness. And Virgo's the energy that allows us to discipline ourselves on a daily basis to do the things that nurture and sustain ourselves as primary. You know, they say that, you should put your oxygen mask on first before helping somebody else. But like, if you take that to its most sort of extreme sensibilities, it's because you might die.
Right.
Right? So that's to me how important it is to dial into having a daily practice. And Virgo Pisces is the continuum that is the spirit flesh. Virgo invented the body, and Pisces invented the notion of the spiritual underpinnings that flows through the body that animates it. So every full moon is about gratitude and release. So the one thing to be certainly focusing on in your gratitude is, where have you come on your spiritual journey? The full moon in Virgo is conjunct Neptune, Pisces ruler, and the planet we call the Great Spirit. One thing is going to make the full moon very dreamy. And those few days will be very Piscean and could actually even have some yumminess and sensation. But really and truly, the conjunction of the Pisces moon with Neptune means the emphasis of this full moon is all about your connection to spirit. And so the gratitude portion would be to sort of celebrate everything you've learned about how to be in a body, but connect to that which is beyond the body. That's a wonderful thing to sort of be focused on in terms of your gratitude in this full moon. And then the release, the letting go, certainly has to be what inhibits you from treating your life as sacred every day. This is the full moon for those people who go to church on Sunday and sort of, judge from Monday to Saturday. This is the get your spiritual ducks in a row every frickin' day of your life, because each day is all we have.
Right.
And so that Chiron in conjunct to the south node is part of this full moon. So this is where we sort of put together everything that I've said about Venus's process this year, allowing us to go deep, deep, deep into unconscious spaces and open up our hearts, even though that's risky, vulnerable, and sometimes terrifying. We've been having the assistance, and Chiron creating the great eliminator angle with the south node while we're in a full moon. That's like a little psychic surgery waiting to happen. Chiron will sort of open the places up. This is metaphoric, obviously, but he'll open the spaces up, and then the full moon mechanism that helps us release will go snip, and we can let go of the inhibitions to discipline, the things, the resistances that keep us from sort of dialing into remembering your spiritual mastery every day, and releasing any consciousness that's in there of you thinking you need to know the details, you need to know every way it's gonna play out, whatever it is. Pisces moon and Neptune says, trust the flow, and for God's sakes, let go of the expectation of form. We just set new moon intentions 2 weeks before this full moon, right? And what did I talk about in that new moon? It was like, set the intention, grab your vision tightly, but with open palms, because everything is subject to change right now. Mercury's going to go retrograde. Mars is going to go retrograde, so that everything we desire and intend right now has the potential for delay, pivot, and shift in direction. So if you are attached to how you think something needs to play out, you're going to suffer. This is a full moon to let go of that need to know or the need to control all of the little details and just say, I trust the flow. Even though to trust the flow seems terrifying, I will let the universe show me where I must go next. Have at it.
All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week we have a dreamer calling in from Chicago. Hey, Amina, what you dreaming?
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here.
I had a dream in the winter during a time when I was really ill and I had a fever. Usually whenever I fall asleep, I play a podcast. I like to have some kind of background noise, help me drift off. And I had been sleeping, and sometime during this podcast, a woman had started playing a song. And I would find this out because when I woke up, she was still playing this song. And in the dream, I am suddenly in a place I've never been before. It's like the sunroom of this house that's overlooking a big landscape, and it's full of strangers. And the whole thing's very beautiful. But the woman playing the guitar sitting on the couch in my dream was a redhead. And I remember this because I had a breakup in the last couple of years and developed quite an animosity towards redheads. And I just remember not liking her. But then she starts playing the guitar and this song, and then she calls me over to come sit next to her and start playing the guitar with her, which I don't know how to do because I've never played guitar before. And then she's singing, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a beautiful song. And then I start to have like this out-of-body experience in the dream, knowing that I'm dreaming, but I can't do anything about it.
And there's this voice that tells me, okay, get up and go to the window in the sunroom and open that window. And I'm like, oh, this is so weird. And in the process of like watching my body walk to the window, I hear something tell me, you're dreaming. This is a dream. And when you open the window, the rest of your life is going to be different. And you're walking up to the window, and I'm opening the window. And it's like, once you open this window, the rest of your life is going to be totally different. And this song is playing, and the kind of narrator keeps saying, like, when you wake up from this dream, the rest of your life is going to be different. And then I like slowly started to wake up, knowing that I was dreaming and like returning back to reality. And this song kept playing, and I was in like quite a daze. I had totally left the dream. The song eventually stopped playing. I continued to be ill for a couple more days and had nothing to do but be locked in my house, and was kind of consumed by this dream. And then I honestly felt like the rest of my life was different, to the extent that a couple of my friends had come up to me quite later, months later, and were like, did something happen to you? You're very different. Like you're
different.
you're much more calm. You're like in a better place. What happened? And I was like, you guys, listen, I had this really weird dream. And they were like, that's insane. And it's been almost a year now, and I still think about this dream and how weird it was. And I wanted some input on it.
Well, first of all, Amina, welcome to the rest of your life. I mean, I take this dream quite literally. Well, first of all, one of the things that's beautiful about being ill is that the instrument itself, the body itself, is in a whole chemical bath because the body's in this process and the immune system is fired up, and it's like an alternate reality when we're ill. In fact, it's common. Fevers will often bring about hallucinations and, phenomena. So that alone tells us something, that your instrument, your body, was in a numinous altered state during this week that you had the dream. And that alone is capable of generating an experience in the brain, in the mind, that is, atypical, more connected to the multidimensionality, because the instrument is distracted by being sort of filled with the chemicals of illness. I love the idea that this is a figure that you first sort of reject when you sort of become a part. It's adorable that because she was a ginger. Then you had some waking life. But that does tell us there's something about love. And, we experience our greatest sense of the universe through our connections with others and intimacy. And so there's this little bleed in about your breakup experience that might have been there to sort of, layer in to say, okay, I'm going to reject this part of me. I'm going to judge her. And one of the things that I've noticed in almost all dreams that involve some kind of a connection with a medicine or an animal totem, or a dream like this that's clearly a meeting with some numinous spirit guide that's part of your consciousness, that we reject it first and then sort of receive the connection benefit. So even that little thing of judging her before sort of moving forward into what she has to offer you. The guitar playing and the red dress all remind me of passion, creative expression. This is a part of you that's saying, I'm going to teach you how to have more of this. I'm going to teach you how to play the instrument. That's like, I'm going to teach you how to make more music with your life. Right? And she's clearly a part of your guidance system that's capable of upping the sort of your pay grade of your spiritual connectedness and your willingness to be creative and understand your unique song that you are to sort of sing in the world. So this window image that comes is important because windows imply that we can have a glimpse into where we're not, right? We're in a space, but I can see beyond it with a window consciousness. So this is like this character in the dream is asking you to see more, to open the window of your soul. Because when you do, as you do, your life will never be the same.
Right.
And I think this dream will have even more impact when you're a couple of years down the line and you can really look back at this passage of this current sort of year in your life to have a more sort of integrated sense of really how much this year is a threshold for you of change. And the fact that friends are remarking on the slight shift in your energy, seeing you as more grounded, I think is fascinating because it tells us that the dream was an experience more than a dream. This dream falls into that category of things I call dream experiences that aren't the typical chaotic, I'm processing my, unconscious in a dream state. This to me is an event of your multidimensionality consciousness. And it sounds, too, like the way you described how the dream unfolded was that demand to go to the window was intense.
Yeah.
Like repeated and repeated and repeated.
Yeah. Just this narrator kind of telling me that once I opened the window, the rest of my life would be different has like stuck in my head because it wasn't my voice and it wasn't this lady that was playing guitar. But I could watch it happen to me.
Ooh, so wait a minute. The voice that was directing you to go to the window wasn't the woman.
No, it was like this omniscient narrator.
I'm going to call that just, your sort of higher soulful self, the one that knows your whole life from beginning to end. My brief little 2 cents about how this thing of us being multidimensional beings works. It's like we have this 3-dimensional sense of self that moves through life from beginning to end. We are at the affect of time. We begin very young, we end at our last breath, and that's our life. But there's a us that is the 4-dimensional us where we are its creation. Like my joke is we are the TikTok account of our soul. Our soul is creating our content and we're expressing it day to day. So this voice comes from that higher multidimensional soulful self that's guiding the whole process from beginning to end, saying, here's a threshold. This is a moment. This year, you're stepping into a higher level of integration and wholeness. So if the voice didn't come from the woman, then the woman is a character aspect of you. She's the part of you that is grounded and certain that all her needs are met. Red dress, root chakra, all my needs are met. She's the part of you that already knows how to sing and play your dance, your song, your performance. And she's showing you how to do that at a higher level. Then the higher self pitches in and says, all right, girl, this is that threshold moment. You must look through the window of your soul out to see what's next and possible and understand that if you pick this charge up, with the charge being play your song more fully and more loudly, your life will change right here, right now.
Wow. I've thought about this dream for months.
No doubt, honey. This is a powerful dream experience. It's funny, too, because I'm writing a book right now on mystical dream experiences, and this is a perfect dream to maybe put in the book because it's a book about these moments where everybody has, not everybody remembers, but I think it's possible for people to have 1 or 2 major dream experiences that mark a change and a shift in their entire arc of the life. And this is one. This is absolutely that.
Yeah, it seems like a bookmark in my almost 30 years of life. It's like, and you had this dream, and then it's the rest of your life after that.
I love that. And so actually, it's funny that you would say that because I had the question. I wanted to ask how old you were just to sort of get a sense of where you are in your development. And, that.
I am 27.
Okay, so you're literally creeping into your Saturn return.
I'm almost in my Saturn return. Yeah.
Right. So the Saturn return is a huge marker of the completion of the first full act of your life as a young person. And the Saturn return, it demands that you be ready to meet the second chapter, which is basically 30 to 60, where you have to be a full-on contributing human being.
Okay.
And so your soul comes along and says, all right, honey, it's about to get real. You're about to step into the wisdom sort of dissemination portion of your life. And the dream experience shows the threshold to cross, which includes feeling more grounded, root chakra, red, feeling like all your needs get met by source, because source is your employer and your partner, and sing the song that you're here to sing. And as I like to say, have at it. Beautiful dream. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Amina.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to keep that interpretation with me. I think I'll sit on that. That seems good.
Yay! Yay! Love it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.